Okay, we are live, and this is the Pick Six podcast, and I am with my buddy Dustin here. I'm DPZ, as you probably all know, and Dustin here at this channel. We're going to talk again about sports card stuff, but I was going to start off, Dustin, with something I think is going to maybe
Hurt my feelings?
it might not hurt your feelings, but it's be contradictory with the fact of what I'm even doing here. Like it sort of like flies in the face of everything that I've done the past couple of years, and it does. I mean, I'm not throwing any daggers here. I'm not meaning to say this in any way to be disrespectful to anyone, especially those that actually monetize their content. I'm all for that. That's wonderful. You do your thing, but I find myself not enjoying sports card content anymore.
And I did know that Dennis was going to bring this up. DPC was going to bring this up, and I just assumed that he was not talking about my stuff. Like my stuff would be part of like the exception, but he was very forthright with me and let me know that yes, unfortunately, I also fall into that bucket as well. So go ahead, expand.
I'm sorry, brother. I mean, there are times where if it's a juicy topic, I guess we all kind of get alerted to that, right? We want to see what everybody has a take on, but when there's no drama, which is ironic because I think we all feast off of that. There's nothing that's piquing my interest. And again, this is not a knock on anybody. I think that there's lots of great content creators out there. Most of you are all way better than me, if you want to call me one. I'm sort of a sporadic one these days, and that's one of the reasons why I don't have that same kind of energy as well. As I don't know what to talk about. Like what I start thinking, okay, if someone's going to take the time to listen to this show, like I would take the time to listen to a show, I need to be cognizant of they're taking their free time, which not a lot of us have a lot of, and they're devoting it and giving us that 10 minutes, that 20 minutes. And is it going to be worth it for them? And I feel bad. I feel like if I don't have something that's worthy of a topic, like I'm just wasting people's time. And I feel bad about that. Or I'm wasting your time, Dustin, or anybody who's participating. I just feel bad about that. And I find myself gravitating towards other podcasts, maybe spiritual content, whether it's just sports content, whether it's like history of sports, general history, American history in general, like just so many other things, maybe even political commentary. I think, I'm trying to, learn a little bit more about that, and not getting into the weeds of that. But I just find myself more engaged in that and way less engaged in the sports card content. There's some stuff
is that like a 2024 thing, or is that like the last like 90 days or something that's happened?
I think it's the last like 6 months. It's been a little more difficult. I mean, started out 2024 just fine. I was still very much engaged in it. I think I've kind of gone through this back and forth and selling, doing this, paying this card off, doing that. And I go, all right, there's a really cool card I want, but I don't really want it that bad anymore. Definitely not at that price. But there's something else I feel like's happened once I've stopped listening to the content as much as I have. And again, I'm not going to name what content I do listen to. There's a couple things I do still I tune into, but it's not about who's making some list or whatever. It's just the general thought of like, I still love cards. I don't want to sell certain cards. I still have that passion for them. I still want to collect and all that stuff, but I'm not consuming any content about it like I used to. That's all I used to do. And maybe it's because I'm getting back into music. We're getting ready to play some shows this next year, recording. Like I'm getting back into what I used to do before I went headlong into card collecting. That's my hobby, and that's all I really do. I'm getting back into that. There's a lot of things changing, in my work life. So it's like, okay, sort of there's like this shift going on. So things are reprioritizing, I guess, for me. But and I'm busy with the family, obviously. I don't have really any time not a lot of time. I got time where I'm driving to and from, dropping kids off at different activities, or going to work and back. That's it. And even then, during my work commutes now, I'm on the phone with my people, and I'm busy. So I don't have the same amount of time. So when I have to carve out that time, it's like, what do I want to listen to? Yeah, I used to enjoy it, but I don't want to sit here and listen to something that's going to be about nothing for like 20 minutes and then go, well, what did that do for me? How did that fill me up? Now, distractions are wonderful, and it's nice to have those healthy distractions of just listening to something you enjoy. I'm sure that works, but for some reason, I'm still not wanting to engage, and that bothered me, I guess, in a way. But I also still felt in love with my cards. I didn't want to sell them, so it's not like, I want to get out of the hobby. It's not some big dramatic, stupid thing like that. It's just weird, like my attention's not drawn there like it used to. And one thing that I thought about when I was thinking of like, okay, but what does that mean? And so how did it affect my collecting, my ability, the way I approach collecting? How did it affect that? And I find myself more interested in stuff from the 80s, in the early 90s. I find myself less interested in the 90s inserts and all that kind of stuff. I'm looking at those going, yeah, these are great and everything, but I'm really way more passionate about my 87 Fleer basketball PSA 9 set. Like, and I'm like 9 cards away from completing. I'm like, I'm way more passionate about. That's becoming something I don't know if I'd ever get rid of versus some of these super rare cards that I've acquired, which I'm grateful to have. They're not connecting with me in the same way. You know, I went back and got an 89 Fleer sticker Michael Jordan PSA 10. I went and got the 88 All-Star PSA 10. And yeah, I know there's more of the 88 PSA the All-Star card, and you know, you can say that. I started going, but why do I care about that though? Why do I care about the pop count right now? Why do I care? Like, the way I picked that card out is I tried to find the most centered version of that card because it's classically off-centered, even PSA 10s. You have to really look. There's little things that get away, right? So kind of really diving into the intricacies of grading and finding that's just the right card, the perfect registration, all of that was exciting. And I didn't have to listen to some content creator tell me, hey, it's going to go up. I was just drawn to it again, and drawn less to the super rare, obscure cards because there was a part of me that enjoyed seeing a more liquid card go up and down in value and tracking how the desire is truly at, where the desire truly is for that card is actually kind of fun. That's the content I guess I'm creating. Is I'm on Alt or I'm on Card Ladder, and I'm absorbing like, oh, these cards are going up. And you look at the Instagram Card Ladder push out, hey, these cards, you can kind of see a trend, which would, you know, there's maybe a second half of this conversation we can have about 2025 and what I think is going to happen. But I found myself leaning more towards into the stuff that I grew up with, that resonates with me, the stuff I remember having as a kid, even obviously not PSA 10s, right? But we had those cards, right? They meant something to us, and it was just interesting. So yeah, big picture, I don't know why I'm not as interested in. Is it because we don't have as much interesting content out there? Is it because there's no hobby drama, right? Do we need hobby drama for it to be interesting? What do you think?
Yeah, well, okay, so and there's so many little pockets of hobby content, and I don't pay attention to most of them, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I spend the majority of my time on YouTube because that's really that's the platform that I like to work on. And so that's the one that I'm kind of drawn to. I'll have it in the background and that sort of a thing. I'm also premium member to where there's not ads running, so I can just kind of like have it all kind of running and it's fine. But I also know there's a lot of podcasts. I also know that there's like IG stories, like there's a bunch of these IG guys. I don't watch, like, outside of your story. There might be a handful of people that I look at that I care enough to go and look at a story. Occasionally I'll check out, but like consistently looking at someone's IG story. And I know there's some people that have like a whole, like, they got 30 stories to tell a story.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't know, for me, like, I don't really care enough to read through or to watch through all of that stuff. I don't know. It's just like, it's not my medium. I think and 2024 for me, I watch far less hobby content than I used to. We were actually just talking before we jumped on. I'm 15 hours into a 48-hour fast. I'm back into intermittent fasting. Maybe it's like time of year, like, hey, I need to reset. Last 3-4 years have been really stressful just from like family standpoint, work standpoint. And I've got an extra 10 pounds on me that I need to shed, so I'm going back a couple of weeks. I'm like, I have got to get this under control. Like, finally, like, I keep talking about it. I got to actually do it. So I was telling DPZ, like, I've been watching a bunch of intermittent fasting. Like, I'm going back to, 4 or 5 years ago when I was into it. I'm watching guys I haven't watched in years talking about health stuff, and just getting back into that, and kind of speaking to what you were saying about just, you have other hobbies, other interests. Maybe you're watching other YouTube content or other, Instagram content or whatever, TV content. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I do still watch it, but yeah, it's just, I'm definitely a lot more picky these days.
Yeah, I think that's happening. That might be, I don't know if it's more of a trend or anything like that. I don't want to even go there. Who knows? But I just feel like time is our greatest currency right now. It's our greatest currency. And you vote with your time, you spend money, you spend that time, that money, that currency wisely, and you have to go, all right, if I'm going to do, is this gonna be something that's gonna help, that's gonna educate me? Is it going to be something that's going to, and even like, I mean, I really love, there's a certain show that talks about 90s stuff all the time, and I really enjoy it. But even then, it's like, okay, maybe in doses, right? Or if it's a player collector or collecting of a player that I enjoy. But if it's some random thing, I used to feel like, oh, I'm really getting into that. I'm like, no, it kind of dries out for me a little bit. Nothing against those people and the collectors. It's all great. But I don't know. It's like, okay, why is that happening? Is it my attention? Am I losing my attention? And I'm a person, I want to be real honest with everybody that listens to this. I'm a person who's very committed to things. I commit myself to stuff. I stick with it. You know, I've been at the same bank for 23 years. You know, I was a church worship leader, and I've been doing that for 25 years, 15 of the years, or 20 years at the same church. I've been married for like 15 years. I've been doing this for like 2 or 3. I don't want to quit. I don't like quitting things. I like, when I commit, and I mean it. You know, my dad's been at the same business company for 45 years. It's just kind of how we are. And I don't just quit things, start and stop. I just don't do that. And again, I love cards. I'm not going anywhere. But there's been times where I've had to kind of push myself to do content, because I'm like, I don't want to waste people's time. And I just don't know if there's a lot of stuff out there right now that's really calling to people's attention to spend that time and that money. And I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of all the things, or maybe there's just, the content isn't as rich as it was. And everybody's going to say, well, it's not the boom anymore. A lot of people left the hobby, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. I'm spending just as much money in the hobby as I did before, if not way more.
Well, one thing too, sorry to cut you off, but doesn't it feel like, so what's different about content going back 4 or 5 years ago? It was certainly more normal, common, to talk about certain cards that you like, certain players that you like, speculating on this, that, or the other thing. And not even just on like active players, but even, going back, Michael Jordan or LeBron or Kobe, or I guess LeBron's active, but Mickey Mantle, whoever. It was a lot more common to hear people talking about like why they like to collect these or buy into these cards, whether it be for collecting it long-term, speculating on it, investing in quotation marks, whatever. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, it's a pump. Nowadays you talk about a card. Oh, you're just trying to pump up your card. You're just trying to pump up your card, or you're going to sell that. And it's like, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to sell it for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. I just think I just want to talk about the stuff that I think is cool and why I think it's cool. And it could be a variety of different reasons. It might not have anything to do with value, but we've now kind of moved away from that talk. And frankly, to me, like that kind of sucks. Like I like when somebody pops out, puts themselves out there and says, I'm collecting this particular player for this reason. And yeah, maybe the cards go up, maybe they don't go, maybe they don't, but this is my reasoning behind speculating on this particular card, player, set, whatever it is. At least now I'm talking about on YouTube. Now maybe on IG that is happening a lot. I just don't spend a lot of time going through and trying to find the reel or trying to find the story or whoever's, YouTube's easy for me because it's right there. Like I see the title, I see the thumbnail, I can figure out, okay, I know what this person is talking about. I'm not going to go around to every single hobbyist, IG account and figure out what is so-and-so, going to I wonder what that story says, I need it to be like right in front of my face, for
right. Or YouTube. Someone that and that you're friends with. So you're curious about what they're saying or what they're thinking. You never know. Right. So I always click on your stories too. I'm like, what's Dustin talking about? Because usually you have some funny stuff from the 80s that I totally relate to. And I'm like, oh man, I remember that.
Some goofy meme or something like that.
Yeah, and it's always stuff that because you and I are the exact same age, and we pretty much enjoy all the same stuff. So like even when we're kids, I'm like, oh man, he's like everything you put up there. I'm like, yep, totally, yep, laughing.
But I wish it was just more, because now we've got, again, kind of going back to the pumping or the dumping or whatever it is, right. And it's like it's fun to talk about what you're doing. That part is fun. We've gotten so far to the other side of this, I feel like, to where there's just no talk like that. Now, I'm not saying I want to see invest now before it's too late type thumbnail titles. That's bullshit stuff. That's garbage. But there's a lot of people that are holding things long term. Why are they doing that? Why are they holding it? And I want to know why that is. And don't tell me that it's just because you're the greatest, Ken Griffey Jr. collector, or, you love that guy. Like with the amount of money that you're putting into, specifically, you've got big Griffey Jr. cards. You're tying in, you're putting capital there. So it's not just, about the player. It's also about, long-term hold, for financial reasons, because you have a belief in that and that sort of a thing. It doesn't have to be Griffey. It could be Amari Stoudemire. It could be, Drew Brees for me, or whoever it is. Like, I don't give a damn who it is, but that's the stuff that, if I do it, it's going to be like, I just did today, this will come out a couple days later. I did why I'm buying Caitlin Clark rookie cards, and of course I have to put the disclaimer in of like, I might be buying these cards at the top. I might literally be burning money,
Right.
and I might be like lighting money on fire. And I say, like, don't buy these cards in the video. I have to do that whole song and dance, because otherwise it's going to be grown men flopping on the ground crying and throwing their TV dinner at the wall because I'm pumping up Caitlin Clark cards, which is stupid. They're already expensive, so I'm not literally trying to buy more. So it doesn't help me if I do have some sort of an influence where people are going to go buy the Caitlin Clark cards. It doesn't help me because I'm trying to buy more of those. So anyway, I think that narrative is just, it's like, we're not giant babies, we're grown-ups that can go in and like make decisions. And it's just kind of like, I like to hear strategy. I like to hear about different strategy, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, whatever. And that is stuff that's now everyone is like shied away from it. And that's fine, but it's, I don't know. Now, there is that content, though, where it's like, this is my long-term hold, and then it's on Fanatics Collect next week. That's the stuff that that's the stuff I'm not a fan of. So if you're putting it out there and it's like, man, I just love these. I think they're undervalued. And then, next few weeks, we're seeing all that come out in the Fanatics Collect, for auction. Well, it's hard for me to take you seriously on your long-term hold, theory. But
yeah, I've always been pretty open about, I tend to buy and sell a lot. I change my mind all the time. I think a lot of us do that. So I'm never going to throw too much, whatever. I'm not going to say anything about that because I feel like I'm kind of guilty of it. But I do have about 10 or 12 cards that, most of which I've had for a couple years now. And most of those cards, if not all of them, I've had multiple offers on every single card that greatly exceed what I paid for them. That to me makes me feel really good right now about the decisions I made, because, I've taken a lot of L's on a lot of stuff, mostly because I changed my mind. It's because I changed my mind. It's nobody taking advantage of anything. I'm just being indecisive. So, but thankfully, I've mentioned this a lot on a lot of these shows. I've held account of everything I've sold and I've bought, including sales tax, the fees taken from the sales, all of it. I know exactly where I'm at, from like the first card I bought to the last card I purchased and the last card I've sold. And again, I just send everything to Nick at Wharf. I mean, I don't try selling anything myself anymore. Sometimes I go to Probstein, depending if it's like a New York Met, or if it's a modern card, or someone especially from New York, or a prospect, I'll send it off to Probstein. They tend to do pretty well there. But I don't have much left, that I can play with. Like, of course, I can sell those Jordan PSA 10s I alluded to earlier, because I already sold them once before, right? Even this year. But just part of me wants to keep those down for a while, because I feel like people our age are, and this kind of what I think about this next year. I think this next year, you're going to see more people, gravitating towards the stuff that they really grew up with and enjoy and have some sort of a connection with, versus like, I need to get this 1970s card. I never had it before. I never even really knew anything about it, but I need to get it because they say this is the good card. Versus, I want to get a card that I knew. It might be a junk wax era card for you and I, because that's potentially what it's going to be for most of us. But there's going to be some interest in some of those cards. Not that they're going to go through the roof, but I feel like they're going to maintain some value and maybe go up slowly over time, because people are going to start slowly gravitating there, because the modern space is just so diluted. It's all about breaking. It's hard to collect in that era. Like, my son loves Marvel cards, so that's kind of fun. He gets into the Marvel stuff, less about the baseball, because there's just so much to pick from. Now, you want to buy like a small box or something, packs and stuff like that, you can, but it's still so expensive and there's been thousands of videos done on this. It's just it's not worth it.
And non-sports is actually, from a new product standpoint, where you can actually get some value. Like, it's actually, it's $100 a box. It doesn't kill you, to go out and buy a box of that stuff.
We buy a box of like Marvel, the What If series box. Grayson loves those, and we're one touching like 3 or 4 cards out of that box, and it's like an $80 box, $70 box. It's like, this is something that we can do, maybe once a month for him to enjoy. And he does a bunch of chores around the house and earns it, and then he gets his one touches too. And usually when I buy a box, the LCS gives us a handful of one touches, and it's usually just about the amount you're going to need. And he knows what to look for now, and he gets some pretty cool cards. I'm like, yeah, these are pretty rad. Sometimes we grade them. Well, my wife gets mad when we grade. She's like, why are you grading them? What's the point? I'm like, I know. But I just feel like down the road, he's going to love having all these cool graded cards that he collected as a kid. But anyway, that's fun. And I think with the modern stuff, that can be enjoyable. You're right. That's a nice way to enjoy it with your son and all that. I know Cage does that with his son, and they do stuff every Friday. And that's cool. That kind of stuff is wonderful. Like, it's a great way to engage with your children and share the hobby experience with them. I wonder, though, that the amount of product coming out, the amount of money people are spending on all these people. I think some people are going, I'll take this X amount of dollars. I'm going to go buy something really cool that I remember as a kid, and maybe get it in a really high grade. Because I think that's really the only way to make, if you need to have some sort of a scarcity in that, I know I do. Call me whatever you want to call me, but I don't want a PSA 8 something from back then, because I want a 10 if I'm going to put some money into something back then. And so it's just something I just found myself doing more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that 2025 will be interesting. Will it be, I know that there's some collectors, and I would say you probably fall into this bucket where, you'd rather have 20 awesome cards than have 100, of just having volume of stuff. And I'm kind of at the same point as you, where yes, I've got stuff that I could sell and move off of to buy other things. And by the way, when I was going back a little bit, I've changed my mind. It's not necessarily changing your mind, but there will be something better that comes along. It's like, and then you'll be like, true. Oh, damn, or better at that moment, to where you're like, how am I going to get this thing? And then that's different, and you're not also like, when you go to sell a card, I don't see, there's not a 20 story synopsis on why the card you're selling is the best card in the hobby. It's different. No, because I'm in the same boat. I'm kind of at the point where it's going to really sting to move off of some of the stuff to get into that other thing. So it's like, if I'm going to move into something different, then it better be that good, because there's stuff that I don't really want to move off of. I'm done with it. Like, a lot of the volume slabs and stuff that I had that I could just kind of, part with. I don't have much of that anymore. Maybe a dozen or so that I could move off of. But for a lot of things too, I feel like I've got what I want. When I look at like Drew Brees, could I add like certain pieces? Yeah, but I mean, like, I've got big cards that I want. Like my Stranger Things collection, I've got really like the biggest cards that there are. There's some that I don't have, but I mean, for the most part, I've got like the top stuff. So then it's like, okay, what's going to pop up there? There's 2 cards that I'm looking for that I don't have to kind of complete like a run of blue numbered out of 10 autos. But I mean, like, if those don't pop up, I'm not springing for, like, there's not really a whole lot of stuff there. So you start to kind of get to a point. I picked out basically like a few cards for 2025, kind of target cards. So I've got basically like 5 different cards. And if I can get in collectibles, there's a comic book thrown in there too. But if I can get 2 or 3 out of these 5 in 2025, I'd be ecstatic, and it also kind of, it forces me to save for them too, to where like, I'm going to put money away, like each month I'm going to kind of like put some money aside, and then, get this maybe, towards the end of 2025 or halfway through 2025 or something like that. So I'm trying to take a little bit more of like a budgeted approach to the larger items.
Well, it's kind of tough, and that's a really great idea. I think that's the way we probably should be doing it. The problem is, once I put enough money away, I get to month 5 or 6 and say I got $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000. Now I'm able to buy this card. That $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 has 5,000 other reasons or other places that it could be used more logically. Spending it on a card. Yeah. So that's where I run into problems. Like, well, just save it. I do. And then it's there. And then like, well, I need to use that for all these other things, not on a card. And whereas if I can sell a card and buy a card, somehow it feels different. It's like it's built in, whatever. But then you can't, you run out of cards to sell too. So I guess that's narrowed my focus, where I've gotten eBay off. I don't have eBay on my phone anymore. I don't visit it very often, because I found like the Topps Dynasty thing. I kind of fell into a hole of that. Started looking at all these Topps Dynasty cards. I got a couple. I got 3. But one I'm going to just try to sell. You know, it's a Pete Alonso, amazing patch. I'm going to try to sell. It's up on my eBay store right now, but I'll get notified through Gmail if somebody does anything, right? But I'm just I got to eliminate that temptation to go on there and look for something, look for David Robinson, or look for Ken Griffey Jr. or whatever.
So have you consolidated? Have you created your perfect collection? Have you consolidated up, and like in quotation marks, I guess, because it's a never-ending journey, but it can be kind of a semi-finished project, though. I mean, if you have if you have a goal of like, hey, I want to have 12 to 15 great cards, and I feel really good about the cards I've got, because I'm there for certain things, you know, to where I feel really good about what I've got. And then that's another thing, like going into 2025, being thankful for what I've got, like, and taking that into account, like, I've got wicked stuff. I've got really wicked stuff.
Really great stuff. Yeah.
Do I need to like what do I need? And
we don't need any more. I mean, I don't even need all that I have. I should probably just keep 5 of the best and sell the rest and let someone else own it and take the profit off of it. And the funny thing is, it's like what I feel great about is like I've got these cards I know now, and I don't need a chart to tell me. I don't need someone to tell me on Instagram or on YouTube. I know that what they're worth because they're people are offering me the money, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool, and it's very humbling, and it's like, okay, this is great, but it also makes you want to keep it even longer because you're like, wow, there's some serious demand, people wanting to pay this kind of money to own this card. It doesn't sell very often. Plus, you have that demand. You're like, okay, this is a perfect card to have, and I'm going to keep it because there's that much demand for it. I will keep it. So those are the cards that become untouchable because you're like, well, you know, it's obviously one I can sell if I need to, and I have like 3 or 4 people I can go to.
I have a question for you too, though. Okay, so on that note of consolidation, at what stage do you also, because we talk about kind of a perfect collection for what you want, because I was just thinking, like, as we were talking, everyone's got kind of a certain threshold, a comfort level. Like for me personally, I don't know if I want to own $100,000 card. You know, like I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to be concerned about protecting it, you know, putting in like the safe, the insurance. Now, would it be awesome? Of course it would be awesome. But like you just said, there's a lot of other places to put $100,000, even if you're using card equity to get to that. You know, even if you did consolidate up.
No, this is all caveated with, if I ever needed the money, obviously it goes. Like my family and everything is first and foremost. It never trumps that. But
that goes without saying, sure.
Goes without saying. But yes, I think from a hobbyist perspective, you're like, well, I want to hang on to that because the cards, you know, the first to go, if I had to like really start narrowing it down, the first to go are probably gonna be some of the cards I just talked about at the beginning, like those, you know, the 89 Flair sticker or the 88 All-Star. Those I can just sell. They sell. I mean, the 89 Flair sticker PSA 10 doesn't sell as much. It sells like 7 times this year. I'm one of those 7, twice, I guess, now at this point. And then the 88 is it sells like 19 times this year. There's 382 of them. That's the whole like, well, I can always get it back. Now, will it become more expensive over time, even with that amount and that many sales? Yeah, definitely. It definitely could. But you're going to get an opportunity to get it back. The cards that I'm talking about where I'm getting offers, the cards that you really covet, I think the cards that are very collectible become the cards that just don't sell very often. So people have to go, hey, I'll give you this. I just want one. Like there's only 4 of them. There's only whatever. And it's numbered and blah, 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 blah. And so they just want it. Case in point. So I'll give you, here's an example of this. This also happens too. And I fall into this. I think a lot of us do. I don't know. Maybe a lot of us don't. Maybe it's just me. But I sold my Kobe Super Patch, 99 Upper Deck.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I finally pulled the trigger on that. It sold for 16, and I bought it for 12. So I actually, you know, I did well. That tells you something, though.
In the world of sports cards, that's good.
That appreciated, right? Yeah. I finally got a win. That appreciated over time, you know, and that's just going to go back, you know, into our account. But that particular card never sells. It's very, very rare. And it's Kobe. And it was a really cool patch. So I was like, dang it. It's a numbered out of 25. Like, now I really missed it. And I'm like, doggone it. Now that it's made, obviously it's one of those cards I probably should have hung on to, like with the other ones, because I didn't have any real offers for it, but it sold for a lot more. So it kind of taught me that, you know, just because you don't have offers doesn't mean there's going to be a demand. And I talked to a few people that I knew in the Kobe community, and they kind of gave me a number they thought it would be, and it went way above that. So that just kind of goes to show there are people out there we don't know, they're on IG, they're collectors out there. They're gonna, when that card pops, oh my gosh, I've been waiting 10 years for that stinking thing. I'm gonna go get it. It was a BGS 9. I'm gonna go get it. And so what did I do? Well, it's counting down. It's doing really well. I'm like, dang it. So I go online. I try to find another one. Obviously, I'm not going to find another Kobe, but I found a Shaq. If you saw my story recently, I went and got that Shaq for a couple grand. And it's out of 25 out of 25. Shaquille O'Neal. It's the card review BGS 8.5. Everybody is, and my polls that basically people want me to go to PSA. I'm pretty sure PSA is going to be a 5 or a 6 because that's what they give everything anymore. I don't really, I think with those particular cards, because it's so rare, it's a, Spinatron loves it because it's 25 out of 25. I don't think anybody else is that excited about it other than him, but he's like, that's the kind of card where it doesn't really matter if you have PSA or BGS. It's that card is just going to, obviously, is the Kobe did really well. So I might just test out, BGS and see how that experience goes. I'm probably going to be horrible, but I'll get it back when I get it back, but it'll likely be an 8.5, and that's a cool patch. It's out of 25. It kind of scratches that itch for me because I got a card from that set, and it's not of, there's like 20 guys, and there's a handful of them that are not. I mean, Allen Iverson would have been probably better, Kevin Garnett. Tim Duncan's got a cool card, but he's not as collectible as Shaquille. So I'm like, I got a Shaq card. It's a cool patch card.
Yeah.
I still went and got it back, and I got it for like a fraction of what that Kobe was, but I still have a card I think over time will appreciate in value from where I purchased it because it's a cool set. It's the first real cool patch set like that. So there's things like that you can do, even though those are more impulsive for me. Although I was following in line, and I was watching that card for a while because I was thinking about adding it to the Kobe, but then I was like, well, now the Kobe's gone, I got to go get it. I think those are the kind of things I look at, and I go, okay, I don't want to spend a ton of money, but I can get something kind of cool, grade it, put it in, have it part of the PC, and that'll be a card that I could probably sell. I'd sell it before a lot of the other cards. But it's a card I probably don't sell because I feel like this has a tremendous upside based on what I purchased it at and the card for what it is, the set it is. Those are the kind of cool sets that I want. I mean, it fits my PC. So no, my PC is not perfect. And maybe I'm selling some stuff off and I'm getting something back similar, but it's not the same player, blah, blah, blah. But I still kind of, it fits in with my PC. But I think for 2025, for me, it's going to be very focused, right? It's not going to be, I might buy 2 or 3 cards because I don't want to sell what I got. Now I could sell those Jordans, but I think the All-Star is probably the one that's on the list. That'd be the one I'd probably sell because the sticker never sells, and I kind of want to keep that one. I'll put it in a new slab, get it reholdered, have it real nice and thick and nice, throw it in my case, and then or the safe or wherever, and be done. And just kind of go, all right, I'm going to sit on that one because the 87 Flair 10, I kept that. So I'm like, long term, I think that one's going to be one I will not want to sell.
Yeah, it's a great card.
Those are a great card. And then the 87 Flair set, that has been hard. I'm down to 9 cards, and the 9 cards I have saved searches on eBay. So when they do pop up, that'll be the only time I go there and try to buy something. Now I'm saying this now, you guys can all hold me to it. Hopefully I stick to my guns on this, but I think
next episode, DBZ has an entirely different collection.
Next episode. So I changed my mind, and
I'm actually done with Griffey stuff. I'm out on Griffey, so
I'm all Victor Wembanyama. I just went and sold everything. I bought one of his sticker autos, and I'm riding it. I'm riding that train, man. So we're gonna go for it. But no, I think that I want to be really focused. So like next year will be whenever one of those PSA 9s pop up. I have a couple I'm watching. I just have a hard time spending $500 on Greg Ballard. Right. So that's the joy of set collecting. There's not very many of them, and they don't sell very often. You kind of have to pay the piper for them, but I'm pretty darn close. And once I finish that off, a lot of people, I'll just sell it. I'm like, no, man, you kidding me, dude? Like, you carry on this big old like Zion case. It's kind of heavy because you got all the slabs. It's really a fulfilling feeling, and it's of a set that I love. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, circling back, the content. I guess I'd ask the group, anybody listening to this, like, what kind of content do you enjoy? Is there a podcast that's really great?
You guys love this podcast, so no negative comments about this podcast. This is your favorite.
I think this podcast is probably just as guilty. I mean, I'm probably just as boring and I'm not. Yeah, of course. I am not excluding myself from this conversation. I guarantee it. And I do, I do watch some of yours because you're short. I do. To be fair, I do watch a lot of them because they're short. You're so quick into. It's not as long, so they're a lot more easier to digest. But And remind you, like, Dustin's one of my buddies, but I'm not getting paid to do this, so I don't have to like say anything.
No, he does
I've
not.
never made a dime making content in the last 3 years, not one dime. But I've done it out of the love and joy of it. It's fun. I get a kick out of it. I get to interact with my friends. It's a blast. But I think I'd love to know where is there something is there a show that Dustin and I just don't know about, because we're like, gosh, we kind of go to our familiar places. Is there something we don't know? Is there a great I'm sure there's wonderful podcasts out there that I'm just not even aware of. So,
and also too, is it that card content sucks, or is it just kind of like what we were talking about, where it's like interests have changed a little bit, to where it's like just prioritizing other hobbies. So what was once, something that you're like really into and really focused on, now it's a little bit less. So it's like, and you mentioned like time is currency. You have 4 kids. I have 4 kids. Like, we don't have loads of extra like time to sit around and do it. So yeah, no, I'm with you.
Sounds good. Well, that's all I got, man. I mean, this was a good 35 minutes. Hopefully this didn't waste everybody's time. And if it has, we're both sorry, but
well, no, DPZ sorry. I'm not sorry.
Dustin doesn't care. And now that we're at it, you can click on his affiliate links for.
Yeah. On that note, make sure you click on all the links.
All right, guys. Everybody take care. I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, guaranteed, you don't have no idea how much we respect it. Hopefully you put it on like 3 times the speed so you can kind of get through a little faster. But I hope you got something from this. Again, let us know if there's something else out there we should be paying attention to, because, man, I'd love to check things out. So down for exploring. Thanks for listening. Take care, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Yep, happy holidays.